evening and welcome to the Coon Rapids City Council meeting for Tuesday, December 5th, 2017. If you could please rise and join us for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Griscoviac.
Here.
Councilmember Kicker.
Here.
Councilmember Demmer.
Here.
Councilmember Geisler.
Here.
Councilmember Johnson.
Here.
Councilmember Wells.
Here.
Mayor Cook.
Here. Thank you. First item on our agenda is to adopt this evening's agenda.
So, second?
Motion by Kicker, second by Demmer to adopt the agenda. Any discussion or corrections? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the agenda is adopted. First thing on our agenda this evening is the North Star Lions Community Strength Foundation proclamation. Let's see what I got here. So it says here, representatives of the North Star Lions and Community Strength Foundation will be present to be recognized for their roles in helping make possible a couple of major events in the community. The North Star Lions will be presenting the Community Strength Foundation with 2 checks, one check for the 4th of July and one check to support the Concerts in the Park Summer Concert Series. Somebody coming up? You want to meet me up front or you want to go to the mic? Oh, you got a big check. I should probably grab the mic and come out front. What a wow. Welcome. So would you like to introduce yourselves and then tell us what you get going here?
Hello, everyone. I am Lion Diane Busta with the Coon Rapids North Star Lions, and I am here to represent the club this evening in presenting to our treasurer,
Mary Ann Keene.
from the Community Strength Foundation with some monies that we have collected at a couple of big events. The North Star Lions are an integral part of the 4th of July celebration, and we give a portion of our proceeds back to the Community Strength Foundation, as well as from Concerts in the Park. So I'm here to present those checks to Mary Ann tonight.
Well, I'd like to say thanks to the North Star Lions because they do a lot for the community. Besides giving portion of their profit back from the doing the food at the dam, they do an awful lot for 4th of July and just in general for the community of Coon Rapids. So we greatly appreciate them.
Thank you. So if you would hold that. So I'm presenting Mary Ann a check for $1,273.38 from the Thursday nights Live at the Dam concerts. And I'm also presenting her with a $5,000 check from the 4th of July celebration this year.
Thank you.
Wow, nice.
Yes.
Nice, excellent, thank you.
That's all I have.
Well,
All right.
that seems like enough. Thank you. And is it true the president of the Lions couldn't come because they found somebody more photogenic to show up for the? Yeah. All right. Next on our agenda is to the approval of the minutes of the November 21st, 2017 meeting.
Second.
Motion by Kicker, second by Wells. Discussion or corrections? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? And those are approved. We have 4 items on our consent agenda this evening. The first item is to adopt Resolution 17-127, amending the sidewalk budget. We hired WSB, an engineering firm, to perform a review of the pedestrian bridge located near Coon Rapids Boulevard between Springbrook Drive and 93rd Avenue. Due to deteriorated crossbeam members, there is a concern for the continued use of this bridge. The proposed analysis will provide detailed information and recommendations on structural capacity and continued use of the bridge for both the short and long term. So this would be an authorization of Resolution 17-127, amending the 2017 Sidewalk Fund budget for professional services for the bridge inspection over Pleasure Creek. Next on the consent agenda is to approve final payment for Project 16-16, Public Works Stormwater and Parking Lot Paving. And the actual project costs were more than the final contract amount due to more work performed than actual bid, due to additional portions of asphalt pavement within the existing Public Works parking lot were replaced to allow for better long-term drainage. A section of a concrete apron was replaced due to extensive cracking not identified with the original project scope. A segment of storm sewer pipe was in worse condition than originally anticipated once dug up, and old concrete footings and other debris were dug up and needed to be removed. So we are approving final payment to Dave Perkins Contracting Incorporated in the amount of $16,355.16 for Project 16-16, Public Works Stormwater and Parking Lot Paving. Next item on our consent agenda, item number 5, is to approve final payment for Project 17-11, Coon Rapids Boulevard to Egret Boulevard Trail Extension. This is final payment to Barber Construction Incorporated for Project 17-11. The actual project costs were less than the final contract amount due to less work performed than actually bid. So we are approving a final payment to Barber Construction Incorporated in the amount of $55,069.89 for Project 17-11, Coon Rapids Boulevard to Egret Boulevard Trail Extension. The next item and the last item on our consent agenda is to approve the 2018 business license renewals. And this is just the approval of the 2018 business license renewals as listed on the attached tabulation. If you're interested, you can look at this evening's meeting agenda. There is a complete litany of them, subject to receipt of additional information as noted.
Your Honor,
Councilmember Kicker.
I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
second.
Motion by Kicker, second by Demmer to adopt the consent agenda. Any discussion or questions?
Mayor.
Councilmember Griscoviac.
Regarding Resolution 17-127 on amending the street sidewalk budget, the contract with the engineering firm, does that include recommendations on how we can shore it up to keep it in use, or recommendations on what we need to do to build a new one that's safe?
Councilmember Griscoviac, it's both
Okay.
short and long-term recommendations.
Okay.
All right. Any other discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? And with that, the consent agenda is adopted. Next item on our agenda is number 7, and that is to hold the Truth in Taxation public hearing and consider resolutions 17-117 and 17-118, adopting the 2018 budget and tax levy. And looks like we're going to have the Ms. Legg show tonight.
It's the most wonderful time of the year.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So, Mayor and Council, tonight we are required to have our truth and taxation public hearing. So we have to give a chance to the public to talk about our budget. We're not here to talk about values, although most of the phone calls that we get, when we get phone calls, when they get their notices, do relate to values. But we're basically here to talk about the budget. So I do have a presentation. I will try to be a little bit quick. Our whole budget is on the website, of course, and if anybody has any questions, we're very happy to help answer them. But if this levy is adopted tonight, it will be certified to the county, and it will be the basis for allocating the 2018 taxes for the city. There's one of these meetings for the city and the county and the school district. Each jurisdiction has their own meeting. So tonight is our meeting. We'll have our public hearing, and anything that is relating to the budget we can talk about. But basically the process is this, what I've got up there. We started talking about the budget back in August. The council's had work sessions on it. Staff has balanced the budget to the best of their ability. And tonight we're having the hearing, and like I said, if adopted, we will certify that to the county for 2018 taxes. Generally, our overall goals are to try to address our responsibilities, taking care of the basics like streets and police and fire and sidewalks and all the things that we do. We also have long-range goals in there where the council set out specific items, maybe it's Coon Rapids Boulevard or street reconstruction, park renovation, all the things that we are doing over the long haul, try to reinvest back into the city. We do think about the economic conditions, cost of living, inflation, things like that when we're putting together the budget, and we try to stay as most reasonable as we can. We do have constraints in terms of how much we think is appropriate in terms of going up as far as increases. And then the other guiding principle that we have is we try to maintain, and we have done this, a 45% fund balance in the general fund. So we measure that against next year's expenditures. And that is just a little simple policy that helps us be very disciplined in terms of not just raising revenues arbitrarily, you might say, but saying that expenditures of next year we can't exceed 45%, or we have to have 45% of that in our reserves. So that's kind of some of the things that we look at when we're doing the budget. This graph I put up here just to kind of show, these are the tax rates for other cities, and there's a number of them down there, and I realize that it's hard to see them, but I wanted to get as many of them on there. This is where Coon Rapids is. You can see where I've got the cursor going up and down. On the bottom, you've got White Bear Lake and Plymouth, Vadnais Heights. I'm going from down here. Up here, I'll try to find, let's see here if I can find Fridley, one of our neighboring jurisdictions, is a little bit higher in general than Coon Rapids. Brooklyn Park is higher, Golden Valley, Richfield, New Hope, and Brooklyn Center. So that just gives you an idea of where we fall in terms of tax rates. And this is all the years 2012 through 2017. That's why there's multiple lines. Okay, and here in Anoka County, same story. This is where we're projected to be. We're projected to have our next year's 2018, our truth in taxation rate is 42.215. That after we take all the expenditures and how much we plan on being the tax levy, that tax levy divided by all the value of the city comes up with a rate. And our rate is 42.215. Now that will change a little bit, but that's pretty close. And that is the 6th highest in Anoka County. So these are the Anoka County cities. So, I mean the 6th lowest, I'm sorry. The 6th from the bottom. And this year, we've been the 6th for all 3 years. That doesn't always happen, but we've been the 6th from the bottom for all three, 2016, 17, and our proposed 18.
How come Oak Grove isn't on there?
Because
they're actually lower than Ham Lake. Mayor Corrin is going to be really
You know,
disappointed that we're
if
not
I
having
left
on the list.
one off and you caught it, because it seems so, I think it was just so far off the charts or something, but I think I remember that. I thought, I'm going to leave this off, it just doesn't, but.
All right, okay.
Okay, next time I won't leave it on.
No,
Sorry.
he'll get a kick out of that.
Okay, so then our revenues, this kind of just shows where all of our revenues come for all of the funds. Here's the property tax section. We've got about 40% of all of our revenues that come from property taxes. The next highest percent is charges for services, things that we perform some work for and get paid to do. The other ones, miscellaneous revenues, that's another big one in here. This would be where our franchise fee would fall. And then we've got any of our other like assessments and things like that. Down here, assessments, we've got 2.2% of our revenues come from assessments. Intergovernmental revenue now is closer to like 5%. It's not that huge of a part of our budget. And if I'm going too fast, I can slow down or whatever, but this is the total budget for the whole city. So this is the proposed budget that the city council will adopt tonight if they're so inclined. Looking at the bottom line, it goes down from 2017. 2017, it was about 76 million. 2018, it's about 73 million, but a lot of that varies because of the major capital projects that we have. So depending on if we're building a building, paving streets, building parks, those big projects go into capital, so they're not consistent year to year. Whereas the general fund is pretty consistent. You know, we don't put a whole lot of big capital type items in the general fund. The general fund, we're looking at about a 3.5% increase in expenditures. General fund, that includes all the salaries, all the supplies, everything that's for streets, parks, and we'll get on a little bit further down the line here. But for the total budget of the city, you can see it's about 73 million dollars. And that's breaking it up by the types of charges. So here you see the big red, that's personal services. Most of what we do depends on labor. So that's where most of this budget goes. Although you can see that there's some other big places. This includes the capital. We've got 16% of our overall budget that we will be using for capital. And we're 17% where we're paying somebody else for services. Disposal charges are for the sewer fund. That's going to Metropolitan Waste Control or Metropolitan, I can't remember the name of it now. That's Metropolitan Waste Control, but MWCC. Okay, the property tax levy is broken down here, just kind of showing you 20 million of it is going into the general fund. Debt service, things that what we levy for, and what we bond for, and then we're repaying that bond with taxes. We're going to be levying about 3.8 million for that. Now there's a number of things that are included in that. We've got street reconstruction in that, the city share. We've got the ice arena that we're paying for over 25 years. We've got the what was the next thing I was going to say? Oh, the park referendum, the $17.4 million park referendum that we've been levying for a number of years already. That's included in that debt service number. And then other funds would be any other capital type funds. So the total city levy is 26.8 million. And then earlier tonight we did just adopt the HRA levy too, which is a separate entity, but I just included it on this slide. And this slide we've been using for a number of years, but the trend is, it seems to be a pretty nice trend. The green on the top is basically investing in our infrastructure, whereas the blue on the bottom is the general fund or operations. So over time, we've been putting more and more of our levy into infrastructure rather than just maintaining, which seems like a good thing. Historical tax increases. The general fund is this first set of graphs, and it's hard for the audience to see, but this for 2018, the general fund tax levy will go up by 2.4%. Overall, our tax levy will go up by 4.8%. But this just kind of graphs the increases over the last few years. So the general fund has been fairly, it's like 3% or so. There was 1 year in here we actually had a decrease, but we strive to keep it within 3% when we're trying to balance the budget. And if we can do better, great. We do look at all the items in there and try to figure out how we can be as efficient as we can or consolidate services or whatever we're doing. But that just kind of shows you a historical perspective. And the general fund revenues, just taking the general fund, which pays for our police, fire, parks, maintenance of parks. This shows where all the money's coming from. So you've got the taxes, you've got intergovernmental revenue, licenses and permits, investment income, utilities taxes. That's where we have that franchise fee. Now, council remembers that we have pulled out about $50,000 to rebate back. We will be having our next meeting on that at the end of, at December, is it the 19th council meeting? Charges for services actually are going up a little bit, and fines, these are court fines that have kind of been on the decline for the last few years. But it's about a 15% reduction again for this upcoming year. And then all the other fees that we have. These are transfers, they're just inner city transfers, the 81.9 million. So our revenues overall for the general fund, including those transfers, would go up less than 2%. This is just breaking it down by type. Well, where do the taxes come from? Residential properties are the biggest contributor at 47%. Commercial and industrial contributes about 18%. And then the next biggest one is, I guess it's fiscal disparities is not a property type, but because we are a gainer, we receive money back from fiscal disparities. Fiscal disparities is where all the metro counties are pooled, and it's the revenues are actually divvied up back to the cities without as much commercial and industrial revenue. So all the commercial and industrial properties put into the pool, and then it's redistributed based on our property wealth. So Coon Rapids is a gainer in that case. We're getting back more from fiscal disparities than what our commercial industrial properties put in. Okay, the general fund expenditures. As I said earlier, most of it goes to personal services, especially in the general fund where you've got police, fire, park maintenance workers, admin staff. So that's about 80% of the cost of the general fund. And this is by program. So you can see the biggest department in the city is the police department. So they are using about 36% of the general fund budget. Then there's maintenance. I was going to say fire next, but it's maintenance, which includes park maintenance, street maintenance is the next biggest department. And then we get down to fire, general government, and community development, and then community services. General fund expenditures, this just kind of breaks down those departments that I just kind of pointed out. They're showing what kind of an increase overall. So general government's going up about 2.6% increase, police about 3.8%, and we've got some highlights on what's going on in the police department. Fire about 3.3%, court fines, court admin, I will call it, is 1.6%. Community services, 6.1%. Community development's actually going down a little bit. And then maintenance is going up about 4.2% for an overall general fund increase in expenditures of 3.3%. Some of the things that are included in the 18 budget, we don't have elections every year. Some years the elections are bigger than other years. So we've got an election in 2018, so that adds money to the budget. Police department, we have proposed a new position to be an outreach specialist, someone that's really skilled in monitoring media, social media, kind of reaching out to the public, kind of working with neighborhoods. And I guess I'll just say to that, we've kind of seen things change so much over time with social media, especially when it comes to the police department, that they feel it's critical to monitor what's going on out there. We don't want to be the last to know what people are saying, and that's basically what that's trying to do. The fire department has got some improvements at Fire Station 1. That building was built at the same time as this building was built, so that was about 20 years ago. So now we're doing a little bit of upgrade in the fire department. Transportation, we are continuing to do street reconstruction. We've been pretty aggressive with that for a number of years now, but we feel like we're getting on top of that, but we did have a lot of deterioration in our streets that we're dealing with. And then we're going to continue to seal coat the streets. That is just kind of a top coating on streets rather than actually reconstructing them. We've been doing that for basically every year as well. Quality of life improvements. You will remember that we did pass that park improvement bond, and in the park improvement fund, we've got $5 million set aside in there for that referendum levy. 2018, and then there's some projects that will carry over into 2019, but we've included them all in this park improvement fund. And we're basically on track with that referendum to accomplish all that we set out to do. The park trail improvements, we've set aside annually about $300,000 just to renovate smaller parks and do trail connections or trail renovations, whatever the need might be. Other highlights, the housing neighborhood. We continue to work on Coon Rapids Boulevard. We do have some property that the city still owns that we're trying to get developed or sell. We have revolving loan funds for commercial type entities. We're updating our comprehensive plan, which is a pretty comprehensive effort. The second phase of Homes for Generations is continuing. And sidewalks, we've got about $300,000 in the sidewalk fund to do some sidewalk gap infilling. And then new this year, we have put into the budget about $200,000. We always put in some money for tree maintenance, but we put an additional $200,000 in for tree maintenance because of the emerald ash borer, which we've seen in our city, and we really feel like it could be devastating. We want to try to stay on top of it, so we'll probably be trying to set aside money each year and dealing with it as we need to. We do have some lights in there that are LED lights for the arena. Hopefully this will save on energy costs and provide good lighting. There is a lot of energy that is used in the arena, and a big part of it is for lights. So we are trying to address some of those needs as well. And then as far as civic involvement, we'll continue to do the newsletter. We have that newer Park and Rec brochure, and we've had neighborhood meetings just to keep people involved, because I guess we really do want to hear what people have to say. We don't have to wait for these kinds of things, but the city is interested in knowing what the neighborhood issues are and what people think of our city. We do strive to be excellent. We've had some customer service training right now, but we're focusing on that again into 2018, trying to see things from the customer point of view and treating people how they would like to be treated, and to try to be as efficient as we can in our operations. And then we do have the workload measures and our metrics, we will call them, just basically trying to measure ourselves against prior years and say, is this a reasonable cost for what we're providing? So we try to measure some of these things that we're doing, and there's a lot of those metrics in the budget, and each year we try to expand them or perfect them to try to make them a little bit more meaningful. As far as personnel, we do have another full-time position, and that is the park maintenance. And part of the logic behind that is because now we have Sand Creek, the newly renovated, bigger park, as well as the Coon Rapids Plaza, I believe.
Boulevard Plaza.
Boulevard Plaza.
Wasn't sure what you were guessing at
So-
there.
I wanted to say Boulevard Park, but it's always going to be Boulevard Park to me. But in any case, okay. And then we do have some health insurance premium increases, about 11%. One good thing in personnel this year, we did have a fairly substantial decrease in our workers' comp costs, which we're very happy about, because we've had some high costs in workers' compensation. So that's helping this budget, and if we can keep working on that area, that will be really good for the city. We've got the para is increasing for police and fire from 16.2 to 16.5%, and the other employees remain the same at 7.5%. So, let's see, what else do we have here? Every year what we do is we update our equipment replacement schedule. Now what I'm talking about mostly here is rolling stock, our cars, our dump trucks, our graders, our anything that we have. We've got a 10-year replacement schedule. We try to keep the levy for that fairly consistent from year to year. So even though we may have fluctuations in expenditures, we try to keep the expenditures pretty stable. So we update that every year. We've got funds in there to maintain the vehicle stock that we have on our replacement schedule. And even though we do have a replacement schedule, so maybe we say that a car is going to be replaced in 10 years, that doesn't necessarily mean that in 10 years we're going to replace it, because we will look at it and see if it can go another year, what the mileage is like, what the maintenance records are like, and see if we need to replace it or not. But this just gives us a gauge so we can kind of look out and see how things are going. We've got the debt service we talked about a little bit earlier on all the arena park improvement. I've listed that here. The arena is about $990,000 that we are levying. Street reconstruction is about 1.5 million compared to about 977. So we do have an increase in that. We have been very aggressive. The levy that we are proposing to levy is because we issued more bonds to take care of that aggressive approach. And here we have the benchmark homes. These are the same benchmark homes we've been tracking basically forever. But you can see the bottom line on this is the lower value home. It was $114,000 for payable 2017, $121,000 for 2018. It went up about 5.7%. The taxes for the city share are proposed to go up about 3.4%. And I will just flip through the others. It changes fairly dramatically from house to house. We know that the market for housing has been pretty hot. You know, in Coon Rapids it's been really pretty strong. There was that article in the paper, you might have seen, that Coon Rapids was listed as one of the top cities for increases in value. There were other cities too, but Coon Rapids does have a real strong housing market. So increasing the value of these homes, it depends on how your house goes up compared to everybody else's house. So if your house takes a bigger leap, percentage-wise, than somebody else's house, you're going to take more in terms of your taxes. If everybody stayed the same percentage-wise, and if our budget went up in terms of taxes by 4.8%, everybody go up at 4.8%. But because everybody takes a little different percent of the pie, it varies from house to house. And that's a hard concept for people, but because we're allocating in around 20,000 houses, it kind of, you know, there's just a lot of variation in here. Here's the second house that went up about 25,000 in 1 year. That's a 17% increase. You can see the taxes for the city on that are going to go up $92, but that equates to about a 16.6% increase in taxes. The next house went up about $24,000. That was about a 12.5% increase in value. Their taxes for the city will go up $75, which equates to about a 10%. And now we have another one that goes up about 11%, and the taxes go up 8.6%, or about $71 a year. And the last benchmark house, I think, maybe there's one more, went up about 8.5%. Taxes will go up by 4.5% or 4.7%. I do want to point out, or I should point out, I guess, the more your house goes up in, the higher value you have for a house, the less market value exclusion you get. So it's sort of a double whammy. If your house goes up in value, you lose the market value exclusion, so your taxes are actually going to kind of take a double hit there. Because the market value exclusion does go away at a certain level, like 414,000, there is no more market value exclusion. Okay, and then there was home 6, which actually went down in value. Now this is a higher value home, so the market has not been as strong for the really high value homes. So that actually went down by 3%. So the taxes on that are actually going down by 7.5%. Or 7.7, I guess that was. The commercial properties, it's a little different tax capacity calculation, but this just gives us an idea on a lower valued commercial, their value. I guess that's one more thing I should say is commercial and industrial values, and the city council knows this, but I'll just say this for the public. Commercial industrial values did not go up for pay 2018 nearly as rapidly as the residential. So what that does is, because they're also part of the pie, the taxes are going to shift to the residential. The commercial and industrial, you can see this first one actually goes down for the city taxes by about 4.5%. Their value actually went up, but because it didn't go up as much as the residentials are picking up more of the tax levy than the commercials. And this one you can see, even though the value went up, the taxes are going down because the value went up so much less than those houses. Same story here. This one actually had a decrease in value by a 0.7%. So their taxes, not only did they get the decrease in value, but because it's so much less than residential, they get 6.2% decrease in taxes. And that is the end of my presentation. I would stand for any questions, and tonight we need to have the public hearing and adopt the tax levy resolution as well as the budget resolution.
Excellent.
Okay?
Thank you. Council, any questions? Go ahead, Councilmember Demmer.
Again, just to point out, we didn't make up any of that stuff, that all those rules about tax capacity and percentages, that's all done standard across the entire state. And so this is not Coon Rapids policy that as the value of your house goes up, your taxes go up. This is standard across Minnesota. So just in case anyone didn't catch that at the start.
There is the legislature adopts the tax capacity rates. So you apply the tax capacity rates to a home's value. There's different criteria, different rates for commercial and residential. So it depends on what those class rates are, where things are going to go. Now, the legislature did not shift those, they did not change those this last year, but it still is all set by the legislature. And the city's required to maintain their values. So when we go out and assess property values, we need to be within 10% of what that type of house is selling. Because the state looks at our numbers, all of our numbers, when we go out and value all the houses every year, all that information goes to the state. They run analysis on those. And if we were not within that 10%, the state would have the option to come out and across the board increase all our taxes. So we're required to keep values within reasonable selling prices as well.
All right. Anything else? Apparently you were very thorough.
Okay, very good, thank
Thanks,
you.
Sharon.
Thanks, Sharon.
All right, if council doesn't have any questions, at this time we will conduct the truth and taxation hearing. Is anybody here to address council for the truth and taxation hearing? We'll open that now. Anybody here to address council over the budget on the truth and taxation? Seeing none, we'll close that portion of the meeting and your wishes, council.
Your Honor,
Councilor, was it Demmer? Thank you.
are you doing both at one time? Okay. Move to adopt Resolution 17-117, adopting the 2018 budget, and move to approve Resolution 17-118, adopting the 2018 tax levy.
Second.
Motion by Demmer, second by Kicker. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? And that motion carries. Well done. Thank you for all of the work on that. Item 8 on our agenda this evening is to hold a currency exchange license public hearing and consider license renewal for your exchange. Minnesota statutes require the governing body to hold a public hearing and render a decision regarding the license renewal within 60 days or by December 30th, 2017. The notice of public hearing was published in the Anoka County Union Herald on November 17th, and the Minnesota Department of Commerce conducted a state-level background review on the appropriate personnel. No matters which would impact concurrence with the license were discovered. So, let's see. Is anybody here? I will open the public hearing. If anybody is here to address council on the currency exchange license renewal. Currency exchange license renewal, public hearing, seeing nobody. We're going to close that public hearing and look for a motion here.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Geisler.
Make a motion to, concur with the Minnesota Department of Commerce renewal of the 2018 currency exchange license for your exchange 3070 Coon Rapids Boulevard.
Motion by Geisler, second by Wells. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? And that motion carries. We are on to item 9, consider resolutions 18-3 sub 3 and 18-3 sub 6, ordering preparation of feasibility report, get cut off on the agenda, report and preparation of plans for project 18-3 street reconstruction. Anybody want to cover anything on this? I see Mr. Hanson is here for the dog and pony show. Mr. Himmer, anything you want to cover on this, or?
Yes, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Project 18-3 would be the county turnback of County Road 79, which is Riverdale Drive, connecting the city of Anoka to Round Lake Boulevard. If you recall, we're doing a traffic analysis of that area. I believe we have business owner meetings on that next week. So anything that comes out of that would be integrated into this project, and this will prepare that feasibility report talking about what those improvements are, how those costs would be paid, and what this project would entail.
Excellent, thank you. Council, questions, motion? Councilmember Kicker?
I'll make a motion that we adopt resolution number 18-3, sub 3, ordering preparation of feasibility report. I'm doing both. And adopt resolution number 18-3, sub 6, ordering preparation of plans.
Second.
Motion by Kicker, second by Geisler. Discussion?
Your Honor,
Councilmember Kraskowiak?
in the turnback of County Road 79, the county is going to be basically reimbursing us for $684,000, I understand. My question is it our anticipation that that covers that entire reclamation, or that entire reconstruction of County Road 79?
Yes, Councilmember Kraskowiak, that's kind of what we had estimated it to be. Certainly, we're doing our televising, we're understanding utility work as it stands right now. And they also participated in that traffic analysis. A portion of that money was for that piece, but it doesn't include any improvements if we're looking at any congestion mitigation or other things. So that there's a piece that we haven't determined yet that might be within the scope that would not potentially be covered by those costs. But yes, that's the intent. I will state, however, that with every one of our city project assessments are going to be part of that feasibility study, and that will be for you to decide on how those costs are going to be.
Thank you for that, because that was actually my follow-up question. If we're reimbursed for the full amount, do we still then assess those business owners in front of that? And that's going to come before us again?
Per our city policy, assessments are always levied on public roads at the discretion of the council. So you can expect to see proposed assessments as part of that feasibility study, and how you decide those happen is your choice.
Councilmember Kicker?
So it stated that 50% of the project would be collected, or that was the anticipated 50% of the project would be collected in assessments. Is that typical in these?
Councilmember Kicker, that's always our goal.
Okay.
However, when you look at the project costs, we have to maintain at least a minimum of 20%, so bonding can be applied, and we're typically in that 25 to 30% range, typically about a third. And again, that's just for the street cost. Utility costs are kind of a different entity through the enterprise funds.
Mr. Hammer, kind of a related question. We just reconstructed the other side of this street going north from Northdale, right? Running alongside of the new Hobby Lobby and things there. Were they assessed for that project?
Mr. Mayor, yes, they were.
Okay. So basically, this is the same exact project, we've just got a little bit different funding.
That's correct. It's just
Potential.
in a different location, and I believe it's mentioned in the memo as well that City of Anoka had the same turn back. They're already working towards, and so we're
Yep.
utilizing the same consultant and trying to make it one project.
Right, okay. Councilmember Demmer?
Do you have an approximate time frame for when you'd start and how long it would take? I was reading.
That'll all be identified, Councilmember Demmer, in the feasibility study, but we're probably looking on the same track as most of our other reconstruction projects. We'd be looking to award probably somewhere in April, construction to start in May, and it would just be during the construction season up until September, October.
Sounds good.
All right, very good. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? And that motion carries. Next on our agenda is item 10, to consider planning case 17-34, consider resolution 17-126, approving a registered land survey 9940 Ibis Street, Rick Beyer Construction. Mr. Harlicker, anybody want to see the presentation on this?
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Harlicker, you gonna?
There we go. This is a, Council and Mayor, this is a registered land survey, and they're proposing to subdivide 65,000 square foot.
Whoa!
You can come up with 65,000 acres in Coon
Square foot
Rapids.
parcel located on Ibis Street. It's a very deep lot, and they're proposing to subdivide it into 2 parcels. Here's a certificate of survey that shows the existing conditions. Parcel B is up front here. The lot currently has a single-family residence and a detached garage. Parcel A is a flag lot that's located behind it. That's approximately 40,000 square feet. The front one is approximately 24,500 square foot. And we've got 20 feet of frontage going out onto Ibis Street, with the bulk of the property back here. Both lots comply with the dimensional requirements of the LDR2 zoning district. Park dedication, this parcel was originally platted back in 1941, predating park dedication fees. So staff is recommending that park dedication be collected for this subdivision. $4,000 total, it's $2,000 per lot. Planning Commission reviewed this at their November 16th meeting. No residents came to the public hearing. There was no concerns expressed. And Planning Commission recommended approval of the subdivision unanimously. And their recommendation included 5 conditions. Compliance with Title 11, all engineering comments be addressed, park dedication in the amount of $4,000 be paid prior to releasing the RLS for recording. The front setback for Lot A be measured from the rear property line of Lot B. That would be this property line here. And the proposed drainage and utility easements shown on the certificate of survey be recorded along with the registered land survey. With that, I'll answer any questions.
Councilmember Demmer?
I see there's a similar flag lot, 2 lots to the north.
I couldn't tell if it was.
Is that right? The one sort of, if you go on the satellite view,
Yes.
this one,
It
2
doesn't have a
lots.
separate ID number, and that's why I was.
Yeah, I was curious about that too. It didn't have a number, but maybe
It's because you own it.
Yeah.
Yes, the city
Yeah,
does
okay.
own that.
So that's where I was gonna go next, is what happens to these flag lots, and is that usable land at all, or is it gonna just come back to us? And
This,
I was just
the lot
curious.
that's here,
Yeah,
there'll be a house.
so they are actually gonna
It's a
put something on
buildable lot.
both?
Those-
Okay, I thought they were
The
only doing it on
applicant
B. And then
Back.
that space, the flag itself, once you take into account all the setbacks, you still got enough room for a driveway?
Yes, there is.
Okay, so the plan is to actually make that into one small lot with a house on it and one
Well, it's 24,000 square foot lot, so it's.
smaller than the other?
Smaller
Yeah.
lot, yes.
Okay, all right.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Johnson?
So what is the plan as we go forward here? Are they tearing down the existing house, but they'd like to leave the garage on the smaller half-acre-ish lot?
Yes.
They're building a new house.
Johnson.
Are they gonna market the other one and sell it, or are they gonna keep it as an outlot with a garage? Do we know?
No, it's not an outlot, it's a buildable lot. I believe the applicant at this point is looking at putting a new house on track B. The existing garage is in good shape. He'd like to keep that. We're working with the building official and coming up with a process by which we can allow that to happen. And as far as the tract A, that's a marketable lot for somebody to put a house on.
Okay, but none of these plans are required for a subdivision of this property, so.
Correct.
Okay.
The existing structures on track B do comply with all the setback requirements from the new property lines.
All right.
Your Honor,
Councilmember Griscoviac?
maybe a question for police or fire, but with that flag lot, that long driveway that goes back there, is there any issues with our fire or emergency personnel getting back in there? Is there any issues with a big, long driveway like that to the side? I don't know who's would answer that, probably.
I'm smiling because most of the river lots are that long a driveway too, and,
As long as they're straight.
yeah.
They know how to
And I had fire equipment in my driveway one morning.
Mayor, council members, depending on how far back it is, I mean, there's many times we're not able to get back to where the house is, and like I say, we'll lay the hoses out, we'll do what we have to do, but like I say, I wouldn't have any concern.
All right. So I have one of those things where just because something complies with the rules doesn't mean it's the right thing to do. I drove all of those streets today, and we're finally getting it so all of the houses are regular setbacks again. There were a couple in there that were set deep on the lots that have been raised and new homes built on the front of the lots now. And this just doesn't, I don't mind when we split them lengthwise, but obviously this one would be too narrow for that because it would be only 67 feet wide. But I don't mind when the homes are built in line, but that's why you've got setbacks, so you have orderly developments. And this just places a home right in everybody's backyard, and it just seems weird. Flag lots have a purpose. I mean, I think flag lots have a purpose when, on a cul-de-sac sometimes, or there's certain little developments where it's required. But I don't think this is required. I think these were just big, beautiful lots, and I personally don't think it's a great idea.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Johnson?
If I could just dovetail off that, it's interesting when you do kind of look at the aerial of the neighborhood. And those of us that kind of have spent a lot of time in this area are well familiar with these deep lots and how kind of attractive they are. But when you look at Killdeer Street, for example, that's just next to that, you can see how that kind of, it's almost like a flag lot, but it's a flag neighborhood, you know, that runs up and in to add some additional kind of housing space to what would have been backyards. The problem I have with flag lots is kind of twofold. The precedent it sets for kind of spot subdivision without any real meaningful plan of bigger lots. But I don't have a good, at least for my own purposes, I don't have a good meaningful reason to deny the request at this point in time. I agree with the mayor that if I had a preference and there was an overall kind of zoning plan for this area, that I'd rather not do it, because I'm waiting for the next neighbor to say, well, what about mine? And the next one to say, well, what about mine too? And then we run into this kind of frankly strange neighborhood where you have little driveway, big front yard, little driveway, you know, and you get these flag lots that run into the backyards without any meaningful plan. And then I think it ends up hurting the overall appeal of the neighborhood and the property values, because these are frankly really neat and valuable lots. But I haven't heard anything right now that would cause me to say I've got a real reason to deny the request.
Mr. Stemwedel?
Mayor, Council, I think as staff has discussed this particular situation, we had similar, I guess, concerns about, how this would be interpreted in the future. There was some research done. We found that there were 4 other times since 1999 where the city approved similar flag lots. And so in terms of today, I think you sort of understand the set of parameters that we're dealing with. It did sort of beg the question of whether or not this should be a policy discussion of the council, nothing else moving forward, to address this issue if council would desire, because I think we did see some of the same concerns as you're speaking to today.
Mr. Harlicker, do you know why we still have that flag lot? Is that something we haven't marketed, or do we know?
Mayor and council, I'm not sure why that city still owns that flag lot, or how we came about acquiring it.
Your Honor.
Mr.
Brody?
Brody?
This is the flag lot we've been looking at. Mr. Brown and I have been looking at, I think it came tax forfeiture in the mid-60s. We're actually trying to figure out, and the deed was lost by somebody, and so we're trying to figure out the marketability of the property.
It's a little weird though, because it's like, if you look at the whole rectangle, we're talking one that's two lots up, it's almost as if the back part of it went tax forfeiture.
So there's some,
or that was negotiated as a part of the resolution of the tax liability.
We're working with the Department of Revenue, we're working with the county, and it's kind of opened up this whole kind of a spider web of kind of sinkhole we're in. But yes, we're looking at that because it is a kind of a nice piece of property that would be potentially marketable.
Because that would be awesome if you could tie this one and the next one and then our flag lot together and actually do another little cul-de-sac development or something.
Right.
That part, another subdivision,
Then
that
there'd be a
makes
plan.
sense, but that's not what we've got on the table in front of us.
Then there'd be a plan.
All right. I would really like us to look at that because, given all of those lots that are essentially the same in there, they could all decide that, well, this makes sense to just cut off our back and put all these ridiculous lots in. This one is a little bit more isolated because it does back up against those homes on 99th. So, I don't know, it's still kind of dropping one in the middle of the neighborhood, but I don't know that we have any choice on it. Although it's in front of us, like we have a choice.
But there are a lot, no pun intended, but there are a lot of these lots that are in this general neighborhood around the Coon Rapids Dam Park, not just on Ibis, but also on Linnet and over on Hanson and in other areas, so.
Yep, I drove all of them today.
Yep.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Geisler?
In planning case, I make a motion on planning case 17-34 to approve resolution 17-126, approving the proposed registered land survey with the stated 5 conditions.
I'll second it.
Motion by Geisler, second by Johnson. Discussion?
Your Honor?
Councilmember Griscoviac?
Is the lot width on this particular, it looks wider than the rest. It could be just the rectangle that's drawn on the map.
Slightly.
Is it slightly wider, and is that what's really giving the setback requirements necessary to do this lot? For example, 2 lots up, is that lot wide enough to do the same thing? Do we know that?
Councilmember, I don't have the dimensions here, but what you would need, the minimum lot width is 80 feet, and if you have a 20-foot
Driveway.
pole going out to the street, that's 100 feet. Probably most of these lots along here would be able to do that.
So we're reinforcing or setting a precedent that this is allowed.
So I think we
Right.
should look at this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Mr. Mayor, to me, it's, if we want to have a policy discussion on do we allow flag lots, now is not the time. This is allowed in our code. It's, we have a number of them in the city. There isn't a reason to say no. If we want to say no in the future, we need to workshop it and change our policy.
Right, that's exactly the conversation we're having, I think.
Yeah.
All right, any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And that motion carries. But let's put it on our list.
You can always buy that lot.
All right. Next item on our agenda, item 11, is to consider planning case 17-33, consider introduction of an ordinance modifying the square footage requirements for garage storage space in the LDR districts. Mr. Harlicker, you figure this encompasses all of the changes we've discussed over the time, or what?
Mayor and council members, I believe it does. We did workshop this item last summer and
Like
came
we
up with
remember?
it. And what the proposed amendment does is, in the ordinance that was approved over the summer, council pointed out that if you've got a more modest sized home, like 1,000 square feet, you would actually lose the amount of square footage that you could have on your property as far as accessory structures go. For instance, a 1,000 square foot house under the old code could have 1,600 square feet. Under the current code, the 80% finished floor area requirement would limit it to 800 square feet. What this ordinance does, it maintains the maximum allowed 1,600 square feet, but it applies the 80% requirement only to attached garages. So you can still have a total of 1,600 square feet for that same 1,000 square foot house. 800 of it could be attached, excuse me, and 800 of it you could have in detached structures. Also, in this ordinance was more of a housekeeping issue with respect to requirement for concrete slabs underneath accessory structures. The building code last year was changed to 200 square feet. If it's 200 square feet, it needs a building permit. Prior to that, it was 120 square feet. We're recommending the code be changed. It's consistent with what the building code requires.
Mr. Harlicker had said that they'll still require anchors. Are the anchors something that also would offer us support? I'm just thinking, if you go to 200 square feet, now you could have up to a 10-foot by 20-foot long building. And if you've just got the freestanding floor, it's eventually going to kind of follow the contours of the earth and could be kind of an eyesore, couldn't it? Like the old 10 by 12 sheds, I understood those were, you could build those on a floor and they'd be fine, but as you start getting bigger, it seems like you could end up with some changing lines as they adapt to the terrain.
That's a possibility. Most structures, accessory structures that come through that we see now, a lot of them are pre-built. A lot of them they actually have metal studs for floors, and then they put the wood on top of that, so there's not as much give. The building department actually recommended that we include the language for tie downs, so that too is consistent with the city building code and state building code.
Okay. I'd just like us to consider some sort of language. Of course, if we're not having a permit, I guess it's a little difficult to require a certain type of a footing or a pad that it's going to be stable, but, all right. There's the only question I had about that. Councilmember Demmer?
Not to throw a complete right angle at this, but if someone built a tree house, now they could build it quite a lot bigger because it doesn't have to have a permit or a solid cement floor, right? Does that count?
A tree house?
Sure.
Square foot tree house.
Well, I'm thinking bigger than 120, right? I mean, I'm just curious because I know I used to live by one of those ones that was always under, the neighbors thought it was an eyesore and they were always fighting about it. And so it just struck me, being in an area where that had happened before, what happens if someone builds a giant tree house? Because in the past, you could point to the fact that it didn't have a concrete floor.
Oh, interesting. So would your accessory structure be okay up in a tree? Of course, then the
I've
roof line
seen
would be
it.
higher than the house, though.
I've seen it, right? So I was just curious.
Yeah.
Not that I'm going to build one, but,
Councilmember Demmer, I'm not sure how the building code handles tree houses.
Well, the accessory garage can't be taller than the house, though, isn't that part of the code or something?
That's right.
I mean, I'm in favor of letting people go bigger than 120. I think that's, 120 was a bit arbitrary anyway. It was just one of those things that I'd seen a city get in a really big, ugly fight about in the past, and I wanted to make sure that we, I don't think that's going to happen, but I've seen it before, so.
All right.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Johnson?
In planning case 1733, I'd move that the...
Oh, this is just an introduction.
Oh, that's right.
Okay.
I'm so ready to get this fixed.
All right, if there's no other questions or discussion, we will consider planning
I'll
case.
save my motion.
Okay, we'll consider planning case 17-33 to consider
Thanks.
ordinance modifying square footage requirements for garage storage space in the LDR districts. We'll consider that introduced.
Thank you.
And item 12 is to consider resolution 17-128, authorizing the Drake MDG Limited Partnership Housing Revenue Bonds. So the city has authorized the issuance of a multifamily housing revenue note on November 8th. The note will now be replaced with the housing revenue bonds. The initial financing had to occur within 120 days of the state allocation of bonding authority. Thus, the temporary note had to be issued on August 7th. The developer was successful in securing an allocation of bonds for $5 million and associated tax credits. We're now looking to adopt a resolution authorizing the issuance of a housing revenue bond in the amount of $5 million, which will be applied to the refunding of the prior note issued on December 4th, 2017. The Drake Apartments consist of 48 affordable units that are covered by the Section 8 Rental Assistance Program. The city is not obligated for debt repayment of the project and will be acting in a conduit capacity, issuing the bonds on the developer's behalf. The borrower would be responsible for bond repayment. Does anybody need any presentation on this, or
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Geisler?
make a motion to adopt Resolution 17-128, authorizing the issuance, sale, and delivery of its multifamily housing revenue bonds relating to the Drake Apartments project.
Second.
Motion by Geisler, second by Johnson. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? And that motion carries. And we are now at the open mic portion of the meeting, unless I missed something on the agenda. All right. Is anybody here to address council on open mic this evening? Okay, all right, great. Open mic provides an opportunity for the public to address the city council on subjects that are not part of the regular meeting agenda. The public is invited to express any concerns they may have, which are relevant to the affairs, policies, or practices of the city of Coon Rapids. Remarks will be limited to 3 minutes. And if you wish to participate, approach the podium and state your name and address before addressing the council. All remarks will be made from the podium and addressed to the council as a whole. And open mic is not a time for problem solving or reacting to the comments made, but for hearing the speaker for informational purposes only. Questions from council will be for clarification only. And if necessary, a staff report will be prepared for the next regular council meeting with a copy forwarded to the speaker, which is you. Go ahead, sir.
Hi, I am Joel Friday, 13127 Cary Street Northwest. I'm here as the Coon Rapids watchdog for the Crooked Lake Area Association. We are passing out the newsletter that we publish every year right now. We just wanted to make sure that the council has been properly thanked for the work that you guys do in funding Crooked Lake Area Association. In 2016, we had successful whole lake treatment of the Eurasian milfoil in the lake. In 2017, we found hardly any Eurasian milfoil in the lake. And I know you guys think it's important because you got a picture of the lake right there.
Yeah.
So I was looking at that earlier and going, hey, that's our lake right there. So We're here for any questions. If you guys ever have any concerns in the lake, you can contact me directly. I sent each of the council members an invite to our volunteer appreciation thing. None of you attended. That was
Well, that was a
Monday.
shot.
No,
Sorry,
it was,
Joel.
no. It was Sunday night at Pizza Ranch, and the lake borders both Coon Rapids and Andover, and we get funding from both cities and through the DNR and county grants on these things. So we just appreciate everything you do. I'd also like to quickly introduce Gary Nearson, who is our president, if you have any questions for us.
No, but what I would suggest is next time, let us know you're coming and you wouldn't have to sit through the whole meeting. We would actually get you on the agenda early.
Yeah, we did try and do that, and I didn't get enough warning.
Oh,
And this
okay.
was the truth and taxation one, so.
Oh, all right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Gary, I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. Yes, we did try to get it on the agenda, but we didn't want to put it off into 2018 either. Just a sincere thank you for your support over the years, continuing. Both you and Andover help us out, and the Lake Association as well, in the costs that we incur in our treatment. In the newsletter, got a little index right here to refer to, but we do talk about the treatment as well as what we've done in 2016 and 17. We will be developing a new lake vegetation management plan to begin in, the current one we have expires in March of 2018, so we need to develop a new one that'll take over after that. Anything that we do on the lake is strictly regulated and must be done with the approval of the DNR, and we work very closely with them, the Coon Creek Watershed District and the Anoka Conservation District, in developing our plans for treatment of the lake. Over the last decade, the water clarity, phosphorus levels, contaminant levels, everything in Crooked Lake has improved. It is the only Minnesota Star Lake in the metropolitan county area. So, thank you again for your support. Any questions that I can answer?
Your Honor?
Yes.
I would just like to recognize your efforts in eradicating that Eurasian milfoil from that lake. I mean, the lake obviously is a great asset for both Coon Rapids and Andover, and the amount of boats that are going in and out of there in the summertime, picking up that milfoil and moving to other lakes in the cities and across the state. I just wanted to thank you for taking the lead in your efforts in eradicating that and your efforts to do so. Thank you.
Absolutely. Anybody else?
Your Honor, I see a nice picture of the polar plunge here, which I know our chief religiously participates. But I can't help but notice the pictures of the Ramsey Police Department, so I think maybe next year we may get a Coon Rapids police.
All right. Thanks, Mr. Nearson. Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Friday. Anybody else here for open mic this evening? Yes, sir. Oh.
Hi, I'm Glenn Gazale. I live at 412 Egret Boulevard. Well, I got this paper in the mail that says this is the place to come talk to about it. And it's about the tax statement. My house was worth $179,000 last year, and this year it's $200,000. And what I'd like to talk about is I live at Egret and Foley intersection. They had put another lane in front of my house just recently. I now have 4 lanes in front of my house. I don't think that increased the value of my property any, you know, so I wish someone would come out and reevaluate my circumstances at that area. Yeah, I didn't know this was gonna happen. I bought the house 2 years ago, so I'm kind of going through a process of disclosures and things like this that I wasn't aware that this lane was gonna be put in. And the way I found out was I came home to find dump trucks and stuff in my front yard. And of course, all I got was, oh, sorry about that, we dropped the ball. We knew about this a couple years ago, we forgot to tell you.
Oh.
So I was hoping someone could come by, reevaluate my property. Thank you.
So if you were to contact, will we reach out to him and put him in touch with our assessing department? It's like,
I can do that. So the average is 412 Egret. correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I will have somebody call you.
Great, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Joel, you and I are thinking disclosures. This is trouble, isn't it? Okay, take my realtor hat off again. Anybody else here for open mic this evening? Anybody else for open mic? Seeing none, we'll close that portion of the meeting. And we have no reports on previous open mics, so we are to other business. Council? Nothing? Mr. Stenwell, go ahead.
Mayor, Council, I'll just make mention that there's an open house for the Hanson Boulevard improvements that will be occurring north of Highway 10. That's here at City Hall tomorrow, Wednesday, the 6th, from 4:30 to 6:30, right here. So just wanted to pass that along.
Yeah, a lot of interest in that. The big billboard out there, the big sign they've had out there is attracting interest going, I drive on this, should I be coming to this or what? So, all right. Thought I had other notes. There's something coming up. December, no, it's gone. All right, never mind. Couldn't have been too important. Any other business to come before council this evening? All right.
Move to adjourn?
Second.
Motion by Geisler, seconded by Demmer to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.